everybody, and welcome to Calling All Creatures. Tonight, my podcast is about a book called Abandoned, Chronicling the Journeys of Once Forsaken Dogs, and I have the photographer author of the book on with me to talk about it, Katherine Carver. And she's going to give us some more insight into the book and about the dogs and what the book is all about. So I am really glad you could join me tonight, Katherine. It's great to talk with you about this.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty. So maybe we could just kind of start out with having you tell us just a little bit about yourself. I mean, how did you get into photography, and then when did you kind of start photographing animals?
Yeah, this book came about actually from our first rescue dog. His name was Biscuit, and he was a Sheltie found abandoned by a Good Samaritan in North Carolina, and was eventually taken to a breed-specific Sheltie rescue in Maryland, where we reside, and we ended up being able to adopt him. And for my husband and myself, we had never had a dog enter our lives before. We didn't have them growing up, and it was just such a magical experience. And I witnessed him really come out of his shell. You know, he changed emotionally, physically. He was a different dog within a few short months, and it really got me thinking about other dogs like him, and got me thinking about this project, which is now the finished book. But what I did was I reached out to local rescues and shelters to see if they might want to participate, and giving some background, sharing the story about Biscuit, which led me to this project and led me to much awareness of that there are many dogs in need. And Biscuit really brought me back to photography. It's something I've always loved. I fortuitously in high school was placed in it. I needed an art credit, and I fell in love with the darkroom, and it just changed my life. I went on to college, and I was a business major, and I was fortunate enough in college to be able to get into some photography darkroom classes and have some of the prerequisites like 3D design, stuff that I would not be good at doing. They waived those for me, fortunately, and I was able to keep working on this passion, which I love. It's very visual, and I love making bodies of work. And I went on to law school, and like I said, I had taken some more courses. I did not go to school for photography, and I had always promised myself in law school that I would try to do something with it. I had no idea what that would be, but it was very clear once Biscuit entered my life that this project came about. And in this project, which is now the finished book, I photographed dogs while they were in a shelter or rescue environment, and then I photographed them. I followed these dogs and got the requisite permissions and met the adopters and photographed these dogs again. And no one has quite done a project like this. It's kind of a longitudinal study, if you will, of these dogs. And my hope was, I didn't know if I'd be able to do this. This was kind of this concept that I had, and trying to be able to show some emotional or physical change with the dogs. And each photograph is accompanied by a narrative through interviews with shelter and rescue personnel for the first image, and then of course the adopters on the second image. And they're all square black and white images with black backgrounds. So that's kind of a little bit of how this project came to be.
Okay. So Biscuit was really kind of the beginning of all of this then, with you adopting him.
Oh yes, this was, if it were not for Biscuit entering my life, I don't think this project would have ever occurred to me. He just really opened something within me that I became very, very curious about what was happening to these dogs like him, because he was just, like I said, left, and he changed our lives as much as his life changed from having, a loving home and being part of the family. So it was just a very interesting experience from never having an animal in my life, and he just really changed everything.
Well, that's awesome. Sounds like it was a really good experience having him come into your life and getting you to do this project. So the dogs and the dogs, shelters, rescues that were in the book, now were these that were rescue shelters and stuff that were like local to you that you used for the book?
Yeah, so originally, I live in the Mid-Atlantic, D.C., Maryland area, and so all of the dogs initially were from, like, the DMV area out here to start with. However, once these dogs were adopted, they did move, so I did have to kind of go along the East Coast to get them again in some instances. But yes, they were originally local to where I lived.
Okay, awesome. It's always nice when some of the, the local rescues and shelters get to be showcased a little bit, So did you have any kind of a criteria for choosing which dogs that you were going to photograph?
Not really. The only thing that was very important to me in this book, which for those who have seen it or have it or hopefully will get it, I wanted to make sure that the book was diverse in respect to breeds, ages, sizes. I wanted people to be very aware that it is more than the typical pit bull dog when a lot of people think of a shelter or rescue dog. There are many different dogs that find themselves in these deplorable situations, and so I really wanted to have a diverse sampling. I had really no control over what dogs, I really photographed. It was really happenstance in a lot of situations who happened to be there and available. So it really just kind of unfolded organically in that way. And I just made sure when I knew I'd come to kind of having enough and diverse, it was kind of like a smell test. You just kind of knew that I had captured hopefully what I wanted at that point.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that you went to the trouble to show the diversity of the breeds and types of dogs that the shelters get, because people don't realize that you can have. When I was running and managing the shelter that I managed, I had dogs that were turned into me that were AKC papered. So yeah, we've had. You get purebred dogs in here, and sometimes AKC papered dogs, which it's no good anymore because they have to be neutered when they leave the shelter, but or spayed, whichever. But yeah, so you can find a lot of what you may be looking for when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I really wanted to open people's eyes, literally, and with the narratives from the adopters, and kind of as much as possible that I could find out from the shelter and rescue organizations, about how they happened to be living in this situation, as much as we could know. Like, some dogs came from other states and I had more information than others, but just really wanted to show not only the benefits to the dogs of giving them a second chance by dog rescue and adoption, but also how much the lives of the adopters changed as well. So it was really a twofold kind of inquiry.
Right. So for the follow-up visit that you did to photograph the dogs after they were in the adopter's home, how did you kind of come to the decision on how long of a time frame you should wait before you followed up with them?
I don't really recall. I photographed the dogs between 2013 and 2015. This was an over a decade-long project to put this together. So I think I just said about a year. I think that's just kind of what made sense, given that some of these dogs at the time were older. I wanted to be sure that I could do my best to get to each dog again, that were, willing to participate with the adopters. And most of them did participate, fortunately.
Right. Well, I know I did see that some of the dogs that were in the book were a little older. It wasn't just all a bunch of young dogs and stuff. So, again, back to you did a great job with the diversity for the dogs. So, when you did your follow-up photo sessions, what kind of changes did you actually notice in the dogs when you were there doing it?
I think, speaking globally and overall, you could just see in their eyes, and I hope the soul of the dog comes through in these images. I know it's hard because we're talking about this verbally versus actually seeing these images while I'm talking about it, the book. But it was my hope that people could see some sort of change, like I said at the outset. And when I met the dogs again, most of them physically looked in much better condition than when I met them originally. Just more full of life, happier. Obviously, the dogs cannot, talk, but this is what I felt when I met them again. So it was really quite rewarding to be able to witness that, after, initially meeting each dog, and not in the best of circumstances that they found themselves in. So it was quite beneficial, and it was interesting to see that my experience with Biscuit was mirrored with the adopters, how their lives were, drastically changed. And there was also a unique circumstance in the book with the dog named Dagwood. He was actually adopted by an assisted living facility. It was one of the only rescues that would agree for like a corporation to adopt a dog, and it was just quite heartwarming in that he came in with a lot of anxiety, and he was placed with like a whole bunch of grandparents, if you will, and he became the resident dog, and it worked out well, and he was really beneficial with bonding with those, especially those who didn't have very many friends or family that were able to visit consistently. So it was quite interesting. It was a very interesting project and very complex on a lot of levels too to finish it.
Right. And it's funny, I'm glad you said something about noticing the change in their eyes, because as I was going through your book, that's what I was noticing between the before and the after pictures, was the changes in their eyes. How much they were so much more relaxed in their eyes than they were when your before pictures, or when they were still at the shelter, those pictures. So
yes,
you could really tell. I really recommend you guys getting this book, because it was really good to go through and see. And literally, when you're going through the book, watch the pictures and watch the eyes in the dogs, and you'll see what we mean. You can see the changes. So why did you decide to do the photos in black and white instead of color?
Yeah, so when this project literally came to me one summer day, I kind of saw the concept in my mind, and I always thought that it would be, I prefer black and white. It really gets to the essence of what you're trying to get at in the image, I hope. And they all have black backgrounds as the common thread, so I wanted to find a way to do where I could do this while keeping consistency, while getting, really getting to the essence of each dog. And I thought that the black and white would make it just aesthetically made the most sense.
Yeah, I liked it in the black and white. It kind of, I don't know what I'm really looking for with that, but more striking maybe.
Yeah, they're different, right? I mean, it's a little different than what people are accustomed to seeing. And I mean, people see images of these dogs and like looking really awful. In my book, it's not like that. So on the first image, these are like, depending on the dog, more subtle changes, and some of them are more overt. But the dogs themselves, I wanted to honor them and capture them even in the first image, their essence as well and their being. So I hope people, see between the two images, the change, but I wanted to honor them, out of the gate in those first images as well.
Right. And it was, I thought it was a good thing. The contrast between the two, I thought it was good too. I liked it. So, what were some of the comments that you got from the adopters on the dogs that they adopted? What were they kind of like? Were they positive comments, negative comments about getting this, with this dog and what they had to do to, I guess, finally bring it out of its shell or anything like that?
I think a common theme from the adopters were, like, a lot of these dogs at the time were, like, posted somewhere online, and they felt some connection to the dog for some reason, whether it reminded of a former dog that they had, or just something struck them about the dog and they wanted to meet him or her, and it's very similar to my experience with Biscuit. I couldn't imagine my life without him, and he was such a gift to me, and I hope that his legacy will live on in the book. But the adopters felt very similarly. These dogs have a way of coming into your life and just, making it such a wonderful experience that these people cannot or could not imagine not having that particular dog in their life. So it's very life-changing for both the humans and the dogs, and quite a learning experience too. No dog is the same. No dog has the same background or trauma that might have happened to them. They're all different, and I think it requires a lot of patience and dedication to bring these, animals into our homes and work with them on their terms, and just see how this friendship and loyalty and companionship all evolves.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of saw that with some of this, doctors' comments myself. Was like a lot of, like you said, a lot of them had saw the dog online and just connected in some way and got them. So I think that's maybe one of the better things, is when they actually connect like that, or even when they come in person and see the dog and connect. That's also, it's just trying to get them to connect with the right dog sometimes, because it's so funny. I've seen so many people come into the shelter, and I'm seeing their personalities. I'm listening to them, and I'm thinking, I've got this dog over here in this kennel that would be like the perfect fit for them, but they want this dog over in this kennel. That's not going to be a good fit for them. So sometimes you almost feel like you're like a dog salesperson.
It's kind of like I found, especially with the rescues, especially with those dogs who have been fostered and have spent some time, out of that type of setting and in a home, and the foster person can really get to know the dog and really get to know what they need and what the right, what the optimal setting would be, as kind of working as like a matchmaker to get the dog set up in the best environment possible for success. And then unfortunately, in some of the shelters, due to funding constraints, staff constraints, that isn't always possible.
Right.
But studies have proven out that the dogs who are fostered generally have better outcomes.
Yep. That is true, and it is because they get so much information to help the shelters find them the right home. So,
right.
Yeah,
which is really important.
It is very important. That's why when people come in and looking for a dog, it's like kind of listen to what the staff are telling you, because they really do. I spent so much time. Obviously, I didn't know how those dogs were, say, in a home environment, because we were in the shelter environment and in kennels and stuff. But I was the one that took the dogs out of the kennels to play with them outside and photograph them, and took them to the adoption events, walked them, stuff like that. So I knew the most about their personalities and what they were like. So, you get to know them on a pretty intimate level when you take care of them every day. So,
right, exactly. Yeah. Which is so important. That information is so vital.
Yep, exactly. So do you think, in your opinion, if you were to go back now, say, 8 or 9 years later, do you think that the ones that, weren't seniors or older at that time that are still with us, do you think they would still be with those adopters that took them at that time?
Yeah, they are. There's about 10 of them that are still living out of all 59 dogs. And I've kept in touch over the years with all the adopters about the project. Yeah, so yes, the answer is, yes. I fortunately was able to see all the living dogs photographed with the book, which is really nice. So yeah, the adopters were quite supportive. I could never have done the project without the help of so many people that, really made it possible.
Right. That is really cool that they kept in touch with you and kept you updated so that you knew the outcome with the dog. That's really awesome. Sometimes that happens. I had people every once in a while when they would adopt from me, they would do that. They would contact me or post something on Facebook and tag me so that I saw the dog, or I'd run into him in a store or something somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice to know that, you had dogs. And it was so funny because I'm so anal. I would watch all the other pages and shelter pages and rescues and stuff like that to just see if I ever saw any of the...
my goodness.
Yeah, because I'm on Facebook and I cross-post. I have a page that I cross-post for a lot of the shelters and rescues and stuff. So try to help, get the word out about them. And so I would just kind of always keep my eyes open because I've had that happen where I would adopt out. And since I, did animal control and I worked for the county and stuff like that, I actually had dogs that I had adopted out that people took to the county, one of the county shelters.
Wow.
And so the county officer just happened to recognize the dog as being one that came from my shelter, and they would call me and I'd get it back. But,
wow.
So because the shelter was more or less, the statistics made it a no-kill shelter. So, yeah. But, so I would kind of watch. I don't think I wouldn't have any dogs left much out there now that I would have adopted because, like I said, it's been over almost 9 years ago now. So, I mean, there may be some that are up there, but anyway, yeah, it's interesting to find out about them and kind of keep in touch with them.
Yeah, and similarly, there were dogs in this project that were surrendered multiple times before they found their forever home in this project. So I guess it's not as uncommon as we think because in this sampling of dogs that I worked with, that definitely happened to multiple dogs in the project.
Yeah, it does. It happens quite a bit, and what can you say? It's a throwaway society nowadays. And the worst part is, and it's so funny because I'm sorry, sometimes I'm a little more blunt than I probably should be, but people would come in and they would turn their dog into me for this reason or that reason, and I would just look at them and go, okay, so, because we don't have time to figure, okay, so you're basically now passing your problem off to someone else. That's pretty much what you're doing here because you don't want to take the time to correct the problem.
Yeah, so like in the book, I mean, that really, everything really goes to our human actions, right? So for better or for worse, we can do harm or, we can help these dogs. And that's, especially with the complicated reasonings behind the overpopulation problem that we have with dogs and animals in shelter. My hope is the way that the timing of when Abandoned came out this past fall hopefully sheds light on this overpopulation crisis that we all find ourselves in. And I hope it's important dogs. They're just fabulous dogs, and they will really change your life. Yeah, and it's a horrible problem right now. I have had, just in the last month, a couple of people contact me going, hey, do you know anybody that'll take a dog? And I'm like, no. One person's like, oh, this is like a hound dog. She's pregnant. She's going to have puppies. Do you know any rescues well, no. I'm like, the rescues are full. They're pulling from shelters. Shelters are full. Rescues are full.
And so, and then, and this person's in this situation because they were trying to do the right thing, and the dog was running loose, and I don't know if it got pregnant before it came to them or pregnant after it came to them. I'm not sure, with one of their dogs. I couldn't tell you, but yeah, so now they're looking at having puppies. And, I'm just like, and there's nowhere for any of these dogs to go. What are you guys doing?
Right.
And then, and I gotta say this because I see this so much of the time. Everybody says you need to get your dog spayed and neutered because that's the biggest problem. Yes, that is one of the biggest problems, is not enough people get their animals fixed. But another big problem that I see is nobody goes to pick up their animals after they get out of their yard.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I even noticed, a lot with the dogs. I keep track of, I don't keep track, but I help post, like I said. And we have in Tucson, it's a larger city, a larger shelter. And so they have all these dogs that come in, especially during certain times of years. We all know this, 4th of July, New Year's, when people are doing fireworks and stuff like that. But I keep seeing all these dogs coming in, and a good part of them are going up for adoption because no one ever comes to get them.
Oh my gosh, that's really sad.
Yeah, so I don't know if people aren't realizing that that's another big problem. And a good part of the time, these shelters, since they're so overcrowded and full, they're just giving the dogs back. They're not charging any fees like a lot of people think. And they're not getting cited. I mean, fix the problem, please. That's the big thing. Just fix the problem in your yard and how your dogs are getting out. And keep them in. That's what any animal control officer will tell you, and that's what all they want is for you to fix the problem, keep your dogs in, keep them at home. We don't want them in the shelters because, they're taking up kennels. So that we may need for, a literal case where we need it. But, go ahead.
And to that point, when you do adopt a dog from a shelter and a rescue, you are also saving another dog's life as well, because they're space issues. So it is really a ripple effect by doing this.
Yeah, it is. And I do understand there are people out there that are just adamant they want to go to a breeder and pay and get the dog from a breeder. Okay, just please, when you're doing that, make sure it's a reputable breeder that takes care of their dogs and does what they're supposed to be doing with them, getting them their shots, and if they did dogs with hip problems, getting those x-rays and stuff like that done, making sure those dogs are in good health before they sell them to you, because there's so many backyard breeders out there that don't do that. So if we could shut down a good part of the backyard breeders, that would be wonderful. But so there's so many things that need to happen for this pet overpopulation thing to actually stop and go down. But people really need to work on it and quit making excuses and quit being a throwaway society. That's the biggest thing. And being responsible pet owners.
Yeah, I think we all as a society have a responsibility to help these animals in need. And if more of us do it, it will also help. It will help with the overpopulation, and it will help. But it's a complex issue.
It is. It just really comes down to being responsible. I mean, that's the biggest word for any of it when you really stop and think about it, is be responsible. So, back to your book now. So I also wanted to ask you what your feelings were when you found out some of the dogs that you photographed had actually ended up having to be euthanized instead of actually being adopted out.
Yeah, so in the book, there's nearly 60 dogs, and they overwhelmingly have quote-unquote happy endings. But it was important to me to also include in this book a handful of dogs that were euthanized, because these dogs, face life and death on a daily basis, and I thought it was important to include these dogs in the project, showing the real reality, facing these dogs on a daily basis. So of course it's heartbreaking, it's sad, but I hope people seeing the images of these dogs the second image for these dogs is a black square, and hopefully it will make an impact on people when they see these images, that there is no second image of that specific dog.
Yes, I hope so too, because I just saw another one either today or yesterday. As I was cross-posting, the description was saying that the owner turned the dog into the shelter because they didn't have time, because they were working too much. And I'm like, okay, most dogs sleep while you're at work during the day. Just saying, most dogs sleep. So they really don't care that you're not there during the day. So if you can take the time to take them for a walk or play with them after you get home from work, things like that, just some quality time with them, that's a much better scenario than putting them in an animal shelter, especially the one that's really overcrowded and maybe one that's a higher euthanasia rate, because that your dog may not stand as good of a chance as you think of getting out into a new home, especially once they go into the shelter, because now you've got all these dogs that are in kennels in the shelter barking, and there's a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety.
It's very stressful. It's so stressful for these dogs to be in that environment.
Yep. And now your dog is stressed and overwhelmed and has anxiety, and how do you think your dog is going to act when it's like that? So, again, maybe you do work a lot of hours, but again, you're a much better scenario for your dog than putting it in an animal shelter. Just saying. So, those excuses are kind of getting old, that kind of stuff, because, what are your overall feelings about animal shelters and animal rescues?
Well, I think they're vital, right? We need them, because these animals need a place to live, hopefully temporarily, before they get adopted. Like I said earlier, my experience with the rescues and the volunteers there is that they had more capacity to put dogs into foster scenarios where, like I said, they did learn more about each dog to help set the dog up for success, kind of matching them with the right people, the right environment. The shelter, totally different environment and situation, the smells, barking, just the whole environment. I can't imagine myself living in that, and it's sad, and it's hard, and we obviously need the shelters, but like I said, for certain constraints of staff, funding, etc., these dogs don't necessarily get a foster environment, all of them, which really will help get them acclimated and socialized and more time with that particular dog to figure out what would work best for, him or her, a home with other animals, a home with children, just it gives more anecdotal information to help place the dog, and that's kind of a missing link at the shelter that I worked with and are part of my project. But it's I don't want to be remiss in that, this is tireless, this is very important work, and we need these people who are on the front lines, because where would these dogs be without at least the shelter and or rescues, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many dogs, just to ask you, how many dogs, do you know how many dogs are abandoned or displaced in the United States each year?
Yes, so last year, statistics showed that 3 million dogs entered shelter and rescue organizations in 23, and 2 million of those dogs found homes. However, that left 1 million dogs who did not find homes. So it's quite astronomical. Yeah,
it is. I knew it was in the millions. I just wasn't sure what it was here just really recently. I haven't checked the stats in quite a while. So, yeah, it's quite high for, and like we were talking about here just a minute ago, some of the things people can do to kind of help end this shelter overpopulation, adopt, foster, even if you can't adopt or foster, because of whatever situation you may be in, even just helping to spread the word, because you just never know who might see a dog.
And also just like if you're able to, donate money and or supplies. Shelters are in dire need of supplies. There's just a variety of ways you can help. Like you said, you can volunteer, you can foster, you can help, get the word out when you can. But donations are extremely helpful. But obviously, adapting into a permanent situation is obviously ideal, the most ideal.
Yep, yeah, it is. It'd be lovely if we could get every dog out and into a home.
Yes, wouldn't it be?
Cats too. Cats deserve places too. So, also, in doing this project, just out of curiosity, what did you kind of learn about yourself doing this as well?
Yeah, it was quite a journey. I mean, this was a 10-year project. At the outset, I didn't really know how long it would take. I didn't quite comprehend at the time I started what all was, going to be involved. It got much bigger than when the concept kind of came to me. So it was quite a learning experience, overcoming, a lot of obstacles, persevering, just, trying to keep hope. That my goal was to finish it. My second goal was to find a publisher to get it published, and, with the impetus always behind this to help these dogs in need. That was really, really always at the back of my mind. And even after Biscuit died, we only had him 2.5 years. We adopted through the rescuer. We got Biscuit through a shelter rescue, actually in Michigan. We adopted Victory. She came with the name, and she was a constant companion while working on this work. Biscuit, Biscuit was with me at the very beginning, but he unfortunately passed away from a rare cancer. And Victory was just always there, and every time I felt either scared that I was never going to finish, or how this would, if this project would either come together, there's no guarantees. It's quite a different way of working. Really a lot of faith and trust in the process, which is hard at times for sure. But I'm grateful that I was able to finish it and get it published.
When you started, did you think it was going to take you a decade to do the project?
Oh no. I'm not sure I ever really contemplated how long it would take. It just really felt, the whole time, no matter what, I always just felt really compelled that I needed to do it. And that really kept me going through, nothing. This is far from perfect, very non-linear process. So that just really kept me, going, is just the belief that, and also honoring Biscuit, I felt like I owed it to him to finish it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like I said, I liked it. I thought it was a good book with the pictures and the, everything, and the doctor's comments and everything with the dogs after they'd had them for a bit and things like that. So I think it came out well.
Thanks.
So just kind of a recap, just in case somebody missed it. What was the message that you were trying to convey with the book?
I mean, I think the overall just awareness of these dogs, and just wanting to showcase how vital and important dog rescue and adoption is to these animals, and to the life-changing, impact on the human companions. It just is such a rewarding relationship and experience that, I cannot imagine not having a rescue dog in my life ever. I just can't imagine life without one. And I think, even though they can't speak, I think they're so grateful, and they're so present, and it's unconditional love, and all they really want is, love and a warm home and care. And how easy is that? And within, such a short time, your life will be ever changed. And what's been so great is that I think it was about 5 years after we adopted Victory, our second Sheltie, after Biscuit passed, our daughter was born. And so she's an only human child, and she's gotten to grow up with Victory. And it's just made her more aware of animals. She loves animals. She loves dogs. And just like really early education and having her exposed to that has been really, really beautiful.
Right. Yep. Well, it's a great message to get out there to people and stuff like that. Because, there's so many dogs out there that need homes that are such good dogs. And, so if you can, go out and adopt. And if not, at least try to help spread the word around and let people know about, these dogs that are in the shelters, or foster if you can foster. Even if you only foster for a short time, just giving them a break out of the shelter is nice for them. So.
Oh, yes. It is so important.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can tell us now where people can actually go and buy your book, and also maybe give us your website information in case any of the listeners would like to learn more about you and your works.
Yeah, so the book is available wherever books are sold, and a portion of my royalties are being donated to the SPCA International, which is going to a specific fund to help dogs around the globe who are in need. And my website is KatherineCarver.com, and that's KATHERINE, Carver, CAR, V as in Victor, ER.com. And you can specifically see all the places, or most of the places where the book is available. And it's kind of come full circle with having the involvement of the SPCA International, bringing everything full circle, because without these dogs, this book would not exist. And so my hope is with the book that it causes a positive ripple effect for dogs in need.
Awesome. And SPCA International has been doing some great work, so it's really nice that you're contributing some of the royalties to them to help the other dogs around the globe. So that's really nice, because there's so many dogs around the globe that do need help. I don't know how many people are aware of some of the dire straits that some of the dogs in some of these other countries are in, like Turkey and Belgium and stuff like that. It's just crazy. So anyway. Well, Katherine, I really appreciate you coming on tonight and talking with us about your new book. Again, for those of you that might have missed it, the title of the book is Abandoned, Chronicling the Journeys of Once Forsaken Dogs. And it is kind of I guess what you would say, a photographic type of timeline with the dogs. It's kind of cool. Katherine went in, photographed them in the shelters to start with, and then went back a bit later and photographed them after they were adopted and in their homes for a bit to kind of show the differences and show how these dogs had some great new starts in life. Most of them did, anyway. So, but again, thank you so much for being on tonight and talking with us. I really appreciate it, and hopefully people go out and get your book.
Thanks so much for having me.
Alrighty, well, I am going to give you the choice of either staying on while I announce my next couple podcasts coming up, or you can jump off because I know you are busy and have things to do. It's up to you, but that's all I'm going to be doing is just announcing those next couple podcasts.
Okay, well, thanks for your help. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, and if you decide to do any more projects like this, let me know. We'll have you on again to talk about the new ones.
Alrighty. Take care. Thank you so much.
You have a good one. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
All right, everybody. So that was a great podcast. I enjoyed talking with her about her book. It was a really good book. So I do highly recommend getting it if you guys get the opportunity to pick it up, because it's really nice. So the next podcasts that will be coming up are, let me see here, February 20th. I am going to be doing a podcast about raccoons. We're going to be learning about raccoons with Sarah Holmes Bookbinder. And we are going to find out all sorts of really cool facts and tips and all sorts of neat things about raccoons and those mischievous little bandits that they are and all their little antics and stuff, which are really kind of cool. So I am looking forward to having Sarah come on the podcast and talk with me about raccoons. So that one's going to be a good one, February 20th. And then on March 6th, I'm going to have Shannon Ramon de Benedictus on with me. Shannon is a producer-director, and she has been in charge or on many different really cool projects for National Geographic and all sorts of different TV shows and stuff like that, and in articles and things. So that's going to be a really interesting podcast to talk with Shannon to find out, how she got into what she's doing and what she's been doing and all these really great documentaries and stuff like that she's been involved with. So I can't wait to talk with her, and that'll be on March 6th. So with that being said, you guys now know what my next upcoming podcasts are. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's podcast. I thought it was really quite interesting to talk with Katherine. And I hope you guys will be back in a couple weeks for the next podcast. And I also hope you guys stay safe out there this weekend and don't get into too much trouble. All right. Hopefully we'll be back in a couple weeks. Bye now.